Welcome to Goldfish on Gaming,
Are you ready for the maximum review?
or at least a review for Max on the Game Boy. A game that I would charitably call a hidden gem, but then I'm slightly biased as it's probably the game I've completed the most across every platform that I own. It helps that it's not a particularly long game, or a particularly hard game. It's a well-designed game that's incredibly fun to play, and has some really catchy music to boot. So let's start this up and get this review going. The game instantly assaults us with an incredibly catchy earworm of a song, and a title screen that was obviously made at the same time as the box art. The game was made in 1992 by A-Wave Interactive, a Japanese developer, who impressively managed to work on 12 titles in over 8 years, although only 4 of them were fully developed in-house. The rest of them were all work for hire for other studios. The game was then published by King Records in Japan, and the fact their name is still here on the Western release heavily hints that they paid for its development, and then passed on the worldwide publishing rights to Infogrames. Now, as we can see, there is very little in the way of options, and pressing start will take us straight to the map screen. We can see the game really does not want to hang around. There's been no publisher logos, no intros, no cutscenes, nothing. It's just straight in as quickly as possible. In fact, after timing it, I found out you can turn the Game Boy on and be playing in a level in a little over 10 seconds, which is a feat that most modern games doesn't even get close to. The map screen acts as the hub for the whole game. Every time you complete a level, you'll return here, and to spice things up slightly, you can actually play the first 3 levels in any order you like. But the first level acts as a really good soft tutorial, so I figured it would be a great place to show you a level from beginning to end, to get to understand all the features that Max has. Each level starts with you jetting down from orbit, which unsurprisingly you can speed up. And this level starts with a nice little area where you can get used to the controls. And after taking out what was obviously an evil bunny rabbit, we get stuck until we learn how to use the plunger, or as the book called it, the telescopic sucker. We can use this to explore the level, and straight off we have spotted a gun pickup. We can't get it straight away because the sucker will only attach to platforms that it can see. With the gun pickup in hand, we now have the spread shot, which is always useful, and allows us to take out the evil crying cat ball and another rabbit. The bees managed to catch me, which shows off the damage model, as you can take 3 hits before you die, and each time you do, you get more damage, to the point you actually lose your suit. But thankfully, the P power-ups give you your suit back. We have a hole that's slightly too large to get over. We have the portable reactor, which will allow us to fly for a limited amount of time. We only have a small number of these, but there are pickups in the level to restore them. The reactor is only triggered when you fall down a pit or off the screen, so it's not something you can use any time, but you can use it strategically depending on the situation. Reactors are great for allowing you to explore the level, and what we found? Another gun pickup. This allows us to upgrade to the maximum firepower, the Fireball of Indifference. A fireball that cares so little about you, the bad guys, the walls, they'll just pass straight through them all, and I think only take out bad guys because they just happen to be there and it doesn't like it. The fireball is actually so indifferent to you that if you don't have the mech suit because you've taken 2 hits, it will go away, and you end up back with the spread shot, which in itself isn't too bad of a problem, because the spread shot can be really useful to be able to kill bad guys at different heights. Thankfully, the game realised that it would be good for you to be able to go back to the spread shot without taking damage, and you can do this by collecting the gun pickup 2 times, and this will loop you back round. The game is quite liberal with its pickups, and so you can normally get yourself back up to full health or full firepower before you get to the end of the level. The levels themselves also tend to follow the standard trope of going from left to right, killing everything in your path. Now, as we come to the end of the level, we enter the lift and we enter into a boss fight. Each map ends with a boss fight. Normally these aren't too difficult, it's a case of finding the right spot and just shooting it. And with the boss dead, we return back to the map screen. And as we've seen, there's been no story, no cutscenes, so is there actually any plot to this game? And it turns out there is, and for it we need to turn to the manual. So here it is.
Max, the story. For more over a millenniary, the 7 planets of the galaxy have been colonised by a terrible and vindictive tyrant, Draco. Coming from another galaxy, he is here to slake his lust for power and to torture all inhabitants. Within the boundaries of the planets, he works in the shadows and lives from his villainy. Max, who has fought for justice in this world from a very young age, is not prepared to let this situation continue unchallenged, and he fully intends to liberate the populations of the enslaved planets. He has not remained a child for nothing. He has been preparing his galactic salvation mission for a long time, and so when he leaves on this trip, he will be taking some unbelievable gadgets, portable reactors, a telescopic sucker, modular arms, etc. But there are numerous highly vigilant enemies, so Max will have to use both wit and speed if he is to avoid being ensnared. No matter what the danger is, Max will see this through.
Wow! Just wow! There is someone out there who was jumping for joy to be able to finally use their English degree for something. Whoa! Thankfully, the game itself is so much better than that plot. Now, while it very rarely strays from the basic go from left to right, taking out everything on your way, it likes to mix things up every so often with little puzzle rooms where you have to take out all the bad guys before you can move on, or destructible walls, and they theme almost every level. So you get unique sprites and tile sets and baddies. So the game very rarely feels padded. But with only 7 levels, this should really be the case. And it goes a long way to explaining why the game isn't particularly long. It's the perfect length for a handheld game that has no built-in save or password feature, as you're going to have to complete it from beginning to end in a single sitting. One of the great things about doing these videos is it forces me to do research on games and systems that I always enjoyed but never really looked into that much. And what I found out about Max is that it's actually a sequel to another Game Boy game, one that I had absolutely no idea about. And in the West it was called The Adventures of Star Saver, and in Japan it was called Rubble Saver, with Max being called Rubble Saver 2. Now, why Rubble needs to be saved? Only the Japanese can tell you. There's no hint of this in the manual, and in fact I think it goes out of its way to hide the fact. Now, I think this is because Star Saver was published by Taito, and they must have held the right to the Star Saver name, and so when Infogrames came along, they had to come up with another title. Since finding out about this game, I had to give it a go, and so I recorded a quick bit of footage so we could compare and contrast it against the slightly later title, Max. And I say slightly later because there could only have been about 6 months between the two, because Star Saver was also published in 1992. Amazingly, this time around, there's actually an intro, and it shows Officer Tony and his sister being kidnapped by aliens, who then jettison Tony along with a random mech suit and run off with the sister. It's then up to you to go save your sister through a series of platforming levels. Interestingly, in some versions, you actually play as the sister trying to save the brother. In-game, we can clearly see the lineage between Star Saver and Max. There is a lot of similar looking enemies, the mech suit is very similar, and I think when you lose it, the sprite looks almost identical, depending on the region. Now I actually want to make you aware of the HUD. It's not something I've talked about too much so far, but notice it says the word max next to the number of lives. I'm guessing they decided to use the word max to imply the maximum number of lives you had, and not the name of the character, which we know is Tony. But when Infogrames came along, they saw the name in the HUD and decided just to use it for the main character's name and the game name. I can't tell if this is either inspirational or incredibly lazy, or a mixture of the both. Star Saver seems to be far more experimental with its level design, but Max tends to control better, and I feel is a better, more rounded game. But I've got to go back and give Star Saver a proper go, because minimum, it has some really great music. And with that, I feel we're coming to the end of this video, as if I keep going, this is going to turn into a long play, then a review of this still rather good game. And I feel I'm probably going to go off and play this again right now, as I enjoy it that much. So until next time, I've been the Goldfish, and this has been Goldfish on Gaming to the max!